This is my 5th year going to Gen Con, and every year in the lead up to Gen Con, I always feel this really strange mix of excitement and anxiety around attending. For those that don't know, Gen Con is the quintessential board gaming convention in North America. It features over 70,000 attendees, over 500 exhibitors, and this year looks to be just as busy as ever with something like 25,000 events scheduled. I'm recording this video just before I leave because in the lead up to my 5th year of attending, I really wanted to try and get to the bottom of why it is that Gen Con feels so different from every other board game convention that I go to, and why I keep going back despite tending to get filled with dread in the lead up to it. First, I need to acknowledge the elephant in the room. I run a board game publishing company, and that means Gen Con is usually the busiest week of the year for me. Now, I love my job, but 4 straight days of being surrounded by some of the most exciting new games available and not having any time to play them because I'm so busy working isn't exactly a vacation. But for the sake of this video, I want to set aside my work because this year and last year, I haven't had a booth, and I've been able to experience the con much more like a traditional attendee, and it still fills me with anxiety to go. So, setting that aside, I think there's a few different reasons why the Gen Con experience feels so different from other conventions, and they all kind of boil down to one thing, and that is the size and scope of this convention compared to anything else. Let's start with the cost to attend. Gen Con is not a cheap convention to attend by any stretch of the imagination. Like most conventions, you'll have travel expenses, but Gen Con is also a lot longer than most other conventions, which means more time taken off work, more money spent on things like food and lodging. And let's talk about lodging for a minute, because if you want to stay in any of the hotels that are close to the convention center, you're going to pay a pretty penny. And that's only if you actually get the chance to book rooms through the hotel lottery system. Which brings me to a whole nother aspect of the cost of attending, which is that it isn't just monetary. Gen Con has grown so large that the amount of planning you have to do well in advance of the convention just to be able to make sure you're going to be able to take that trip is overwhelming. You either need to understand how the hotel lottery system works and make sure you get into it at the right time and hope that you get the chance to even book a room, or you need to do the work to try and find rooms off-site, which are still going to be expensive and are going to require you to plan transportation to and from the convention center each day, in addition to the fact that you're going to have to look for those pretty far in advance because places book up really quickly for Gen Con. And that's just planning your trip. Let's talk about planning for events. I mentioned at the start of this video that Gen Con has over 25,000 scheduled events this year. And that's also very overwhelming and hard to parse through. And for high demand events, you'll need to be following along with the event schedule pretty closely as soon as it opens, well in advance of the convention, so you can get on the wish list for those events. Not to mention that thousands of new events continue to be added to the schedule in the lead up to the convention. So you're constantly checking back in to see if there's anything that you're interested in or that you really want to get a ticket for. Look, I know there's lots of different ways to make this planning easier, and there are helpful tooltips and checklists and guides all over the internet that you could use to try and get a good grip on how to plan your Gen Con trip. But the fact that those guides have to exist at all is kind of my point here. For people brand new to Gen Con, and even people who've gone for a couple years, the sheer quantity of things to consider when planning your trip can make it feel very daunting to attend. Now, there are some advantages to this as well. There are far more events, more publishers, more games, more food, more everything to do at Gen Con than any other convention in North America. If there is something even vaguely tabletop related that you are into, you will find your people here, and you will find the publishers and the events and the releases that are going to be incredibly exciting for you, and it's going to be a great time. As someone firmly in the board game publishing space, I'd be lying if I tried to say that I wasn't excited just to see all the new releases and all the different publishers that are going to be at Gen Con that I typically won't see at any other convention. And many publishers debut or demo brand new games for the first time at Gen Con. Similarly, getting to be in that environment of having so many things that I'm excited about and to be surrounded by 70,000 other nerds that are also super excited about the same things I'm excited about can be incredibly fulfilling. It's a time where I get to talk basically nonstop to anybody I want to about one of the things I'm the most passionate about, and get an equal amount of passion reflected back at me. But for me personally, that also comes at a cost. The sheer busyness of Gen Con can also be incredibly exhausting. The vendor hall especially is loud and gets hot, and it's difficult to navigate, and it is so crowded with people that you're getting hit by backpacks everywhere you go. If there's an especially popular release or publisher's booth that you really want to visit, you're going to be in for an even busier crowd as you try and rush there right when the doors open, along with all the other crazy fools who really want to get that thing before it sells out. And that's just the vendor hall. The convention center itself is absolutely massive and jam-packed with people and things to do. And Gen Con extends beyond the convention center, into the streets, into hotels, into meeting rooms, into restaurants. They rent out an entire NFL stadium across the street just to have more space for open gaming. Lines for just about everything are going to be incredibly long. Every single room and hall is going to be busy and bustling and hot and sweaty. And it never lets up, even late into the night. It's hard not to start feeling overstimulated by just one day of Gen Con, let alone 4 days of Gen Con. And that's not even including the travel time on either side of it. How many days of work are you going to take off? Are you really going to try and rush home Sunday night and try and get back to work on Monday? You're going to be exhausted. That's going to be rough. It's big. The convention is big, it's exhausting, and it often feels like just organized chaos. And yet, even with all of that, even with the stress and anxiety and the planning and the busyness and the chaos, there's just something special about Gen Con that gets me to push through all of it and walk away feeling like I just had an amazing week. Maybe it's the new releases, maybe it's the publishers or the events or the people, or maybe it's just the novelty of getting to be there. There's something very human about finding satisfaction in just getting to be a part of something that's incredibly unique. So, as I prepare for my flight tomorrow, I'm going to do my best to remember that. I'm going to try and push away the negative thoughts, push away the stress and anxiety, and focus on how one of a kind and special this convention is, and how grateful I will be by the end of it that I just got to be there.